Good morning, dear students. Today we shall discuss and analyze the poem A Prayer for My Daughter, written by W.B. Yeats. Before we start the poem, let's try to know something about the poet's life and his chief works. W.B. Yeats was born in Dublin in 1865 in Ireland. He was born of Protestant parents, so his parents were Protestant, not the Catholic one. His father, John Butler, was a painter, famous painter, and W.B. Yeats received his early education in London, but later they shifted to Dublin, where he studied arts for 3 years. But W.B. Yeats is regretted that he couldn't get the formal university education. That is, he could not enter into the university. So, throughout his life, he regretted for it. He founded the Irish Literary Society in 1891. Later on, he was elected to the Senate of Irish Free State in 1920 to 28, and he was married in 1917 with Maud Gonne, his wife, and he started his literary writings in tradition of pre-Raphaelites. Some of his poems belongs to this period, like the Lake of Isle of Innisfree. W.B. Yeats, we must know that he was also attracted by the mysticism of the East. He was influenced by Indian literature as well as his plays like The Countess Kathleen, The King's Threshold, and Derrida are famous one. His well-known poems are The Wild Swans at Cowley, The Tower and the Winding Star. These are the famous poems, and they are prescribed for every cause. His other famous works are The Wind Among the Reeds in 1899, Seven Woods in 1903, The Green Helmet 1910, and Responsibilities 1914, when the First World War started, and last poem, that is in 1939. So these were the chief works of W.B. Yeats we have so far. Now let's go with the introduction of the poem. Introduction of the poem so far is concerned, we should understand that this poem was written in 1990, a few weeks after the birth of Yeats' daughter, eldest child, whose name was Annie, a girl. So this poem was written after her birth, and this poem is written about this child as well. The poet is making a prayer for his daughter, and his daughter is Annie. In 1990, you know that the First World War also finished. But the impact of the First World War could be well seen at that time. So the poet is worried about the upbringing and well-being of his daughter in those crucial periods. At the time, he had purchased the old tower of or castle at Thur Balili. Then he renovated it and settled down there soon after his marriage. So he lived in that tower. So this tower forms the background to this prayer, which run into 80 lines divided into 10 stanzas. So this poem contains 80 lines. There are 8 stanzas, means 10 lines. Each stanza contains 10 lines. This poem expresses, tells us about the poet's solicitude for his infant daughter Annie when the First World War had just got over, just finished. So the poet is very much concerned for his daughter's upbringing or life. The poem is marked by a strong protective attitude. So the poet is worried for his daughter. So the protective attitude can be seen in this poem. And therefore a poet makes a prayer for her daughter's balanced life, for his daughter's balanced life of happiness for the young child. So he is in fact wishing for a balanced life of happiness for the young daughter, young child. What else we mark in this poem is the uncertainty and instability that was in the world outside. And the poet was worried of these two things, that is instability and uncertainty. No one knew what could happen at that time. No one knew what could take place there in the world. And nothing was stable. The peace itself was not stable. The war itself was not stable. Nobody knew how long this war will continue. So the future appears the poet to be equally uncertain. So he is worried about his daughter, what will happen to this little child, because the time, the age, the period is not the good one at the time. So in such circumstances, the poet prays that the gifts of God be such as to endow the young child with qualities which would win her friends and happiness. So he requests God that, "O God, please gift my child with those qualities which can bring her friends as well as the happiness." That is, she should be developed in such environment with those gifts, with those qualities in her character or in her personality, that she would be able to win her friends and happiness. So the poem is a manifesto of Yeats' personal ideals in old age of settled life with a home and established status. So because the poet is in the old age, therefore he has certain ideals in his mind, and he wanted that those ideals should be maintained and should be there in the life of his daughter. There is one word that is very prevalent and frequently used by W.B. Yeats in his poetry, that is ceremony. So it's a key word in Yeats' poetry. And ceremony, he demands ceremony in the character or in the personality of his daughter. So this is what we have, the little introduction about this point. A prayer for my daughter. Now we shall go with the stanza number 1, that is of the 8 lines. So stanza 1, I recite the lines, then we will have the explanation of these lines. Once more the storm is howling, and half hid under this cradle hood and cover lid, my child sleeps on. There is no obstacle but Georgery's wood and one bare hill, whereby the haystack and roof leveling wind bred on the Atlantic can be stayed. And for an hour I have walked and prayed because of the great gloom that is in my mind. So this is what we have the beginning stanza of this poem. The stanza number 1. The poet is standing, walking. You see the last 2 lines. For an hour I have walked and prayed. So the poet was walking in the veranda, in the place where he was staying, in the tower where his residence was. So what he sees, that storm is howling. Once more the storm is howling. So the poet says that the storm, there is a storm that is running there, and his child, that is Annie, is sleeping in the cradle bed, and it is covered half. It is covered half. So for an the innocent little infant Annie is sleeping fast in her cradle, and the hood of the cradle half covers the cradle. So she is not covered fully, and there a furious storm is coming. From where? From the Atlantic Ocean, and it is battering everything outside the house. So once more the storm is howling, coming, and his child is sleeping in the cradle, and the hood of cradle is half covered. That is, the child has been covered half, and the storm is there. So there is no obstacle but Georgery's wood and one bare hill. So there is no obstacle which can prevent this storm which has risen up from the Atlantic Ocean. There is only one exception where the wind has stricken, and that is Georgery's wood and one bare hill. Thereby the haystack and roof leveling wind, the dangerous wind which is coming from Atlantic, can stay there because of this wood and hill. And if that stay there, The haystack and the root can barely stand the thrust of ragging winds. So, the haystack of there and the roof cannot stand in the thrust, in the stroke of the raging winds. So the wind is very fast, it is in the storm, and therefore nothing can stop her except the Georgery Woods and One Bear Hill. And there the wind has stopped. There the wind has stopped. So for an hour, the poet says that Annie, oblivious of fury of nature outside, because this is the little child, she doesn't know what's happening outside. She is sleeping very soundly. But his father, who is walking, strolling, is filled with the worries, tensions about her safety, about her security, about her rearing in the hard times that ahead, which will come in future. So the poet is in tension. Therefore, he is not sitting with calm and mind of peace, but he is strolling, walked and praying, and therefore praying for the goodness, for the happiness, for the security and safety of his daughter. So in reality, Yeats was strolling when these disturbing thoughts grip his mind. So what were the disturbing thoughts? Disturbing thoughts were about the security, about the safety of his child, that he is concerned too much with her. That is, he feels the terror and danger from outside the world, from the world outside. There is always tension. So here the storm that is rising from the Atlantic Ocean is in fact a comparison or a metaphor. In fact, the poet is fearing psychologically, fearing inside, not about the storm that was there, the physical storm which was coming from Atlantic, but he was fearing of the storm that's happening or taking place in the world outside. That is about the war, that is about the battle, that is about the epidemics, that is about the quarrels, etc. And in such environment or atmosphere, he is worried about the safety of his daughter. Therefore, his thoughts, disturbing thoughts, are gripping his mind. So he imagines the storm as a symbol of unraveling difficult times and deeply apprehensive about Annie's upbringing, deeply worried about the brought up of Annie. The cradle and its hood, which partly covers it, are the symbol of limited security. So the cradle or the child which is partly covered, it means the partial, it is the symbol of the partial security. Partially there was the danger, and Yeats as a father can provide to Annie. That is, he could only provide the half or the limited security to his daughter. So no reader of this poem will fail to notice the liberal use of metonyms, metaphors and other types of figures of speech in this poem. So we have many metaphors, figures of speech, alliterations, repetitions in this poem. And this poem is the intellectual one also. So this is what we have in the beginning line of this poem. That is, can be stayed, and for an hour I have walked and prayed because of the great doom that is in my mind. So the poet is gripped with the dangerous thought of his daughter's security in his mind, and therefore he could not help himself to sit down, but he is strolling and his mind is perturbed. So, symbolically, the storm that was running there is the storm that is running into the mind of the poet. And that storm is about the security of the girl, little child. So, this is what we have for today, students, and in our next lecture we will explain the other few stanzas, next stanzas 2, 3, 4, etc. So till then, thank you very much. See you.